Welcome back to Ancient Military History, a channel dedicated to providing visual representation of how ancient militaries operated and waged war, going into detail about the real tactics they used to win battles, and showing you, the viewer, how this would have looked in ancient times. In this video, we will be going over the history and tactics used in the Battle of York that took place in 867 AD, between the Anglo-Saxon kingdom of Northumbria and the Great Heathen Army of the Vikings. The Battle of York marked the first successful Viking conquest of Britain, a blow to the Anglo-Saxons from which they wouldn't recover until 87 years later in 954 AD. The Viking Age started around 790 AD, and it was during this time in the Middle Ages when the Norsemen, or Danes, began to terrorize the seas and European nations, pillaging and plundering poorly protected villages in the summer, and returning to Scandinavia with their spoils in the winter. As their reputation grew, so did the number of attacks on Britain, and so did their wealth, as they easily stole from churches and monasteries, and oftentimes, the kingdoms of Britain had to resort to Danegeld, or the practice of paying the Vikings to leave. Howbeit, in 865, unlike previous Viking raiders who only came to plunder, the Viking brothers, Ivar, Ubba, and Halfdan sought conquest of the British Isles. But their story does not begin there. It started when their father, Ragnar Lothbrok, roughly translated to Ragnar Hairy Pants, or Shaggy Breeches, undertook one final exploit to Britain to assure his fame. He sailed to England to make war and take plunder, but his two ships were wrecked by storms, and only Ragnar and his army managed to survive and reach land. One English king, Aella of Northumbria in York, resolved to meet the beached Vikings in battle, and he captured Ragnar, who was then thrown into a pit of venomous snakes. However, Ragnar didn't earn the name Hairy Breeches for no reason. He had a special suit made from shaggy material, boiled in pitch, and roiled in sand, which he used as protection in a previous fight against a dragon. How fortunate for Ragnar that he was wearing the same protective suit when thrown into the snake pit, and the vipers proved powerless against his magical shaggy pants. King Aella, realizing the source of Ragnar's imperviousness, ordered him stripped, and the snakes subsequently slithered all over his body and dug their fangs into his flesh. In his dying breath, he vowed that his sons would descend upon York and avenge his death. When news of their father's death reached them, the sons Ubba, Halfdan, and especially the devious Ivar the Boneless, so nicknamed for having only gristle and no bones, sought revenge, and they set out to invade and conquer Aella's kingdom of Northumbria. It should be noted that Ragnar's story may be a work of fiction, a Viking legend told and retold throughout the generations. Modern historians have noted that the city of York, or Efferwick at the time, was very prosperous but in the middle of a civil war, which made it a very tempting and quite easy target for the Vikings. Furthermore, the brothers' reason for conquest may have been simply to amass more riches than would be attained through plunder. Whatever their reasons, Ivar the Boneless led his brothers and their terrifying Viking forces, or what the fearful Christians of Britain dubbed the Great Heathen Army, on their campaign against Northumbria and find permanent settlement in the British Isles. Now, it was not customary for Viking battles to be fought in the wintertime, and Aella was also preoccupied with the civil war he caused when he deposed the former king Osbert. So, Ivar took advantage of their lowered defenses, and on the 1st of November of 866 AD, or the Holy Day, All Saints' Day, the heathens captured the city of York with little resistance. Though the Vikings were victorious, King Aella managed to escape with his life. In a desperate effort to recapture the city, he had to join forces with his rival, the former king Osbert, and they spent the next few months assembling an army and enlisting their country's peasant farmers. In the spring of the following year, Palm Sunday of 867, Osbert and Aella led their combined forces to make a counterattack on the Vikings in York. The Battle of York started well for the Northumbrians. They broke through the city's fragile defenses, which were ancient walls erected by the Romans at the time of the Roman Empire. The walls were crumbling and in disrepair, and the attackers easily tore them down. The smaller number of Vikings were routed and sent fleeing back behind the fragile walls, as the larger number of Northumbrians pursued them in their retreat. Now, the barbaric Vikings are often portrayed as mindless savages and rarely as intelligent tacticians, but the Battle of York is evidence to the contrary. As the Northumbrians pushed further and further into the narrow streets of York, the farmer soldiers soon found themselves fighting the skilled barbarian Vikings in single combat. A massacre ensued. The Anglo-Saxon chronicles recorded that there was an excessive slaughter made of the Northumbrians on this day. Akin to the Greeks' Battle of Thermopylae, the large number of Northumbrian peasant soldiers was nullified by the ferociously superior Viking warriors, who slayed them in the corridors of York. Among those killed were the kings Aella and Osbert. One account states they were slain on the spot, but the Vikings would tell you a different fate. Aella was captured, and Ivar determined that he should be put to death in a way that matched the cruelty he had shown their father. So they took Aella and carved the blood eagle in his back. That is to say, they cut his ribs from his spine and pulled them outwards, tore out his lungs to create a pair of wings, and then let the birds pick over his body. Thus, Ivar's first campaign into Britain was a success, and Northumbria was cemented as a Viking territory. They renamed Eferwick to Jorvik, which would eventually evolve to York as we know it today. The Great Heathen Army continued their conquest, and they successfully invaded other British lands, such as Reading, Strathclyde, Nottingham and Mercia, and East Anglia, until King Alfred the Great of Wessex halted their advance in 871 AD. And while the story does not end there, we'll save the next battles for another day. Thank you for watching Ancient Military History, your go-to resource for the strategies and tactics used by ancient militaries throughout history to conquer their foes. We are a brand new channel, and your support would mean the world to us. So if you liked this video and would like to see more, subscribe to the channel and check out our playlists, where we cover the tactics and other interesting ancient battles. And let us know in the comments which ancient military battle you'd like to see next. Until next time, thank you and have a wonderful day.